Hey everybody, my name is Amanda. I'm the founder of the Yoga Triangle, the first triangle-shaped yoga block to market. And I'm here today to show you some ways to move past your warm-up sequence and include Yoga Triangle in your vinyasa or your flow practice, okay? So assuming that you've already had a safe warm-up, if you haven't, stop this video now, do a safe warm-up. Otherwise, we're gonna move right into how to use the triangle for more of an active practice. So we'll start by placing the triangles toward the bottom of the mat, not the top of the mat, the bottom of the mat. And you're gonna place them about as wide apart as you would have your feet in downward facing dog. Move into downward facing dog. And go ahead and see if your heels touch the ground, right? Most people's heels don't touch the ground in downward facing dog. So this is a reflection point or a baseline. If you have students whose heels don't touch the ground, using the triangles to bring the ground up to their heels is a really great idea. Right, so you can hang out for a few breaths here. You can also play with pedaling the heels in this variation, or extending one leg, or extending the other leg. Variation for Yoga Triangle for down dog. From our downward facing dog, we want to move into a standing position. So take your leg, swing it up, step through. So we'll come into standing crescent. Standing crescent warrior. Right, this is a challenging pose. Again, if the heel doesn't touch the ground, another variation, you can bring the triangle to under the heel for standing crescent. That's going to activate the glutes, going to help stabilize all the connective tissue in the hip, in the glute, and also through the pelvic floor. All right, so we can take a couple of breaths here. And then from standing crescent, we can step back, move through a vinyasa, and find our way back. I like taking child's pose in my vinyasas. But before we move on, just to show how to use the triangle for chaturanga, you can move the triangles up to the top of the mat. And really important thing to point out here, the triangle is very grippable. Big yoga blocks are hard to grip your whole hand around, but the triangle has these points where you can actually wrap your hand around completely. So it's much more grippable. So your smaller hands can be up closer to the letter E on the landmark, and your larger hands can be down closer to the letter B on the landmark. So you can choose. You want to make sure that you're holding in the same place, and this allows for more of a supported chaturanga and a way more open cobra and up dog. So we'll step through crescent warrior on the other side. Something happens when students have to grab their blocks and move them in their practice. It's good for the brain, right? They're multitasking, they're not thinking. So here's your standing crescent on the other side. Another nice variation. I can get really good gluteal engagement here. And of course you can add twists and reverses, all of these other variations. And back into your downward facing dog. Another very unique variation, if we're going to move through another vinyasa where you can use the triangle, is in floor bow. So I like to think of the vinyasa as an opportunity to teach people various ways of exploring back bends. Cobra and up dog being the biggest, and some smaller ones along the way. So before they move into their full cobra or their up dog, they can slide the triangles underneath their chest, and they can explore floor bow variations. So this gives them stability across the front of the chest to push the tailbone down toward the mat and stretch back and open the chest. Another cool variation. You can also explore more of a supported Sphinx pose here, and this feels really great for people that have low back discomfort or tight low backs. This makes an easy cobra or up dog. And then of course, back into your down dog. So we can continue building our flow. All right, so let's say I've just stepped through into my crescent warrior. I did all the things, and now I'm gonna open up. So opening up and turning for wide-legged straddle forward fold, but kicking the heels in. When I kick the heels in, I've got some space to come into a squat. Now most people have a hard time keeping their feet on the ground for squat. So you could slide with the triangles. I like to go balance face up in this variation underneath the heels. And it's important that the triangle fits the foot like a shoe. So whatever direction the feet turn out is how you want the triangles to sit underneath you. So you got a nice squat variation here, fully supported. And you can also move into your dynamic squats and your goddess pose variations here. Much more accessible. In addition to that, the triangles can be used for you can't really dump into these because they're not as big as a block, but as a light contact point, it's going to encourage people to be more engaged and less dumping into. So very light contact point here for any kind of twisting variations. And you'll be able to see if your students are dumping in these variations. So you can build your flow. There are many other variations that you can build into the flow. I'll show you one more that's pretty cool that relates back to your crescent warrior. So let's come out of our wide-legged squat and back through a vinyasa. And let's move into more of a cool down flow class. So I'm going to take my leg up, step my leg through, and bring the triangle balance face down to just in front of my knee. So I'm not putting too much direct pressure on the knee. I get this really nice supported low crescent lunge. I can explore all of these variations here. Again, allows me to stabilize and turn on those joints, less pressure on the knee here. And we want to make sure we do it on both sides. So we'll go ahead and step back. I'm going to opt to not do another vinyasa here because I just don't feel like it. Again, sliding the triangle to just in front of the knee. There's that crescent warrior variation. Kneeling, much more support. I can engage the glute here. I can stretch back. I can twist, all of these things. And back into my half splits and back into my down dog. Another fun way to explore yoga triangle for more of a dynamic practice. That was maybe like an 8 to 10 minute flow. Of course, when you're teaching class, it's going to be a lot longer. You'll be able to build in your breath cues. You're also probably going to have to show your students how to use the triangles the first few times because they are new to the market. And you're going to find different ways that people like using them. I always like to tell people, as much as I've learned the most from my students. So I hope that you guys have enjoyed these ideas, these opportunities along the way. I'm going to continue to share these videos of flows and ways to utilize the triangles and build them into the type of sequence that you might be teaching. And I hope that you check back. Again, I'm a 500 ERYT, so you can credential these hours under Yoga Alliance. And please, please, please feel free to share any of your victories, questions, comments about the product. Really greatly appreciate you taking the time to watch the video today. Have a great day. Thanks.